They said cargo pilots lived quiet lives. No glamour, no headlines, no danger, just the steady hum of engines and the endless stretch of sky. Sophia liked it that way. At 32, she'd traded the chaos of her past for calm skies. Every morning, she walked toward her gray transport plane with a thermos of coffee and a quiet smile, the kind that said she'd finally made peace with her life. But peace never lasts long, does it? "Good morning, Captain Hale," she greeted, stepping into the cockpit. The older man smiled without looking up from his checklist. "Morning, Sophia. Let's get this bird in the air before the clouds start showing attitude." She chuckled softly and took her seat. The engines roared to life, vibrating through the metal frame like a heartbeat. The sky that morning was clear, a soft blue painted with thin trails of gold from the rising sun. Somewhere below, the Pacific shimmered like liquid glass. "Tower, this is Cargo 79 requesting clearance for departure." "Cleared for takeoff, Cargo 79. Safe skies." And just like that, they were airborne. Sophia loved the quiet after takeoff. That moment when the world below became small, and the only sound left was the rhythm of the engines and her own thoughts. She reached for the photo tucked beside her control panel, a faded picture of a young girl smiling in a uniform. Her uniform. She stared for a moment, then tucked it back before anyone could see. No one here knew who she used to be, and that was the point. For 3 years, Sophia had kept her past locked away, buried beneath flight logs and cargo manifests. To her crew, she was just the quiet pilot who liked black coffee and long silences. But once, she wasn't just a pilot. She'd been someone else. Someone who wore wings that came with secrets. The radio crackled, breaking her thoughts. "Cargo 79, we're getting reports of turbulence ahead. You might want to alter course 20 south." "Copy that," Hale replied. "We'll adjust." He turned to her, half smiling. "You good with that, Soph?" She nodded. "Smooth skies sound good to me." For the next hour, they flew in near silence. Just the hum, the soft chatter from the radio, and the occasional joke from the co-pilot, Mason, who never ran out of stories. It was peaceful, almost too peaceful. Then, just as they crossed into open ocean, the radar flickered. A blip appeared, then vanished. Sophia frowned. "Did you see that?" "Yeah," Hale said, tapping the screen. "Probably interference." But the blip came back. Closer this time. Then another. Her stomach tightened. She recognized that pattern. Formation flight. "Could be Navy drills," Mason offered, trying to sound casual. Sophia's eyes narrowed. "Not on this route. Not this far out." The radio hissed again, this time with a voice she didn't recognize. "Unidentified aircraft. State your call sign and purpose." Hale looked confused. "Who the hell?" Sophia's pulse quickened. She knew that tone, that precision. Those weren't commercial. They were military. She reached for the radio. Her fingers hovered. For a split second, something flickered in her eyes. Fear, and something else. Hale said, "Sophia, what's going on?" She took a slow breath. "Just trust me on this." Then, for the first time in years, she spoke words she'd sworn never to say again. Falcon One responding. Requesting verification code. The cockpit fell silent. Hale froze. Mason's jaw dropped. The voice on the radio returned instantly, sharper now, almost respectful. "Falcon One? Confirm identity." Sophia closed her eyes. Her past had just found her. And this flight was no longer just about cargo. Silence filled the cockpit. Only the steady drone of the engines reminded them they were still in the air. Captain Hale finally found his voice. "Falcon One," he whispered. "What kind of call sign is that?" Sophia didn't answer. Not yet. Her hand stayed on the radio switch, her eyes locked on the horizon. "Unidentified cargo plane," the military voice repeated. "State mission or alter course immediately." She drew a long breath. "This is Falcon One. Requesting open channel with command. Authorization code Delta 96. The reply came fast. "Copy that, Falcon One. Stand by for verification." Hale leaned closer. "Sophia, What's happening? She didn't look at him. We're about to have company. Through the cockpit window, two small dots grew larger, sleek, silver, slicing through the clouds. F-22 Raptors. They flanked her plane in perfect formation. The sound of their engines vibrated through the hull. Mason's voice cracked. Why are they here? We're just hauling supplies. Sophia finally turned, her calm voice carrying a weight none of them had heard before. Because they think we're someone else. Or maybe they think I'm back. Hale blinked. Back from what? But before she could answer, the radio came alive again. Falcon One, command confirms your authorization. Proceed with encrypted channel. The men stared as she slipped on a separate headset. One they didn't even know existed, and spoke in a low, clipped tone. Command, this is Falcon One. Situation unclear. Civilian crew on board. Why are my identifiers still active? There was a pause, then a voice she hadn't heard in years. Steady, commanding, impossible to forget. Because you were never officially decommissioned, Major Sophia Reynolds. Hale's eyes widened. Major? Sophia closed her eyes. Her past, the one she'd run from, was now echoing through every speaker. Command, she said quietly. That was a long time ago. I'm not part of your air division anymore. Negative, Falcon One. Your clearance remains. We have an emergency situation in your sector. You're the closest aircraft. She gripped the controls, torn between duty and the quiet life she'd built. What's the emergency? A pause. Then the voice. Passenger jet. Flight 912. Mayday reported. 2 engines out. Declared ditching coordinates less than 60 miles from your position. Her heart stopped. Plane full of civilians. Falling out of the sky. Hale spoke softly. You can't be thinking. But she was already flipping switches, checking headings. I have to help them. Mason stammered. We're a cargo plane. We're not equipped. She looked at him, firm but calm. We don't have to be. We just have to be there first. Outside, the F-22s held formation, waiting for her command. Her mind raced back to training days, to rescue missions no one ever talked about. The smell of smoke, the sound of alarms, the faces she couldn't save. Not again. Not this time. Falcon One to command, she said. We're changing course to assist Flight 912. Copy that. F-22s will escort. You are lead. Hale stared at her. The quiet cargo pilot he thought he knew had just disappeared. In her place sat a soldier. He whispered, Who are you really, Sophia? She gave a faint, almost sad smile. Someone who used to fly toward the danger. As the cargo plane banked east, sunlight spilled through the windows. A warm glow against a sky turning turbulent. Far ahead, smoke trails marked the horizon. She reached for her headset, voice steady now. This is Falcon One to all units. Let's bring them home. But what waited beyond those clouds wasn't just a rescue. It was the past she'd been running from. If you've ever felt looked down on, don't forget to like the story. Because sometimes the quietest people carry the loudest histories. The clouds thickened fast. Dark gray swallowed the horizon, and lightning began to flicker somewhere in the distance. Visibility dropping, Mason called out, gripping his headset. We're heading straight into it. Sophia's voice stayed calm. Stay with me. We can't lose altitude. Flight 912's beacon is somewhere below this layer. The F-22s stayed close, their silver wings slicing through rain and turbulence. Even through the storm, they looked steady, unshakable. Captain Hale stared at her. Sophia, you're flying blind. She didn't answer right away. Her fingers moved across the controls like they remembered every rhythm, every sequence. The way a pianist remembers an old song. The radio cracked again. Mayday! Mayday! This is Flight 912. Engines failing. Altitude 20,000 and dropping. A woman's voice. Panicked, breathless. Sophia's heart clenched. She pressed the transmit switch. Flight 912, this is Falcon One. We're en route to your position. Stay calm, help is near. A faint sob of relief came through the static. Falcon One copy. We're losing power. Tell my kids I love. Then silence. Sophia's hands tightened on the yoke. Not today, she whispered. She pushed the throttle. The cargo plane trembled. Rain battered against the windshield like stones. Are you trying to break this thing apart? Hale shouted over the wind. Sophia's tone stayed even. You can't rescue anyone by staying safe. Mason checked the radar. We're closing in 15 miles out. Then, through the flashes of lightning, she saw it. A faint flicker of fire below the clouds. The passenger jet, barely holding together, losing altitude fast. Visual confirmed, Sophia said. Brace for turbulence. The storm roared. For a moment, everything was chaos. Alarms, shaking metal, shouts. But in that chaos, Sophia was calm. Almost too calm. Hale looked at her. Something about the way she handled the controls felt trained. Familiar. He'd flown with hundreds of pilots, but none like her. He finally asked the question he'd been holding since the call sign. Sophia? Who were you really before this? Her jaw tensed. I was a rescue pilot, she said quietly. Special operations. I flew missions that never made the news. He swallowed hard. And you left. She nodded once. After one I didn't come back from. The words hung in the air. Mason turned slowly. Didn't come back? Meaning? Sophia exhaled. Meaning everyone thought I was gone, including command. Her eyes flicked toward the F-22s outside. Until today. Lightning split the sky. The plane jolted violently. Then, another sound joined the thunder. An explosion. Sophia's eyes darted to the right. The smaller aircraft had been hit by debris. One F-22 spun downward, smoke trailing. She grabbed the radio. Eagle 2, eject. Eject. No response. Her voice broke. Just for a second. Come on, don't you dare. Then the parachute deployed. A tiny white bloom against the dark storm. She exhaled. He's out. He's safe. Hale stared at her. This quiet cargo pilot who suddenly spoke like she'd never stopped commanding. What would you do if this happened to you? Sophia didn't look up. You don't think. You just act. The radar beeped again. Flight 912 signal fading fast. We're losing them, Mason cried. Sophia's eyes hardened. Not if I can help it. She reached for a lever near her seat, one that had never been used on a cargo flight. Falcon One to command, she said. I'm initiating descent assist protocol. Hale's face went pale. You're going under them? In this storm? Yes, she said softly. If we can't pull them up, we'll carry them down. He stared, realizing what that meant. She was risking everything. The storm raged outside, but her voice stayed calm. This is what I was trained for. And as the cargo plane dove into the darkness below the clouds, chasing a falling jet, Sophia whispered to herself, this time, no one gets left behind. Would you forgive them if you were in her place? Sometimes the people we overlook carry the courage we depend on. Rain slammed against the fuselage like fists. The storm howled, tossing the cargo plane side to side, but Sophia's hands stayed steady. She'd flown through worse. She'd survived worse. Altitude dropping, Mason shouted. Hold it, she called back. We're going under them. They'll see our lights and follow. Through sheets of rain, a flicker appeared above them. The passenger jet, its tail aflame, one wing shuddering violently. Flight 912, this is Falcon One, she said into the radio. I'm directly beneath you. Do not descend further. I'll guide you down manually. Static crackled. Then a trembling voice answered. Falcon One, we've lost hydraulics. We're gliding blind. Sophia's pulse raced. Then we do this together. Hale gripped his seat. Sophia, you can't hold her steady like this. She didn't flinch. I don't need to hold her. I just need to keep her alive long enough. For 10 long minutes, they flew through chaos. Lightning bursting around them, alarms screaming, the F-22s circling like guardian angels in the storm. Sophia called out headings, altitude corrections, and comm instructions that somehow cut through the panic. And slowly, The falling jet began to follow her descent. "Come on," she whispered. "Come on, stay with me." Then another explosion. Smoke billowed across the cockpit window. Sophia's heart dropped. "They've lost an engine." Falcon One, the pilot of Flight 912, cried. "We can't hold it, we're going down." Sophia's eyes darted to her controls. There was only one chance left. She switched to external control assist, a classified autopilot override she shouldn't have had access to anymore. Hale stared in disbelief. "That's military tech. How do you even—" "Because I built it," she said quietly. The cargo plane pitched dangerously, engine straining. She lined up beneath the crippled jet and synced her trajectory to its descent path, the two aircraft now moving as one. "Falcon One to command," she said, her voice calm despite the chaos. "Prepare emergency vessels. We're making forced descent on Grid 29. The radio hissed. "Falcon One. That's suicide." Sophia smiled faintly. So was coming back. The altimeter screamed. Wind tore through the cabin. Hale shouted, "We'll crash." Sophia cut him off. "No, we'll land." At 2,000 feet, she throttled back just enough to keep them aligned. At 1,000, she felt the storm begin to ease. Clouds thinning, rain softening, and then, through the haze, lights, a small island base below, one of Command's old refuel stations, still operational. "Flight 912, she said firmly. "Gear down if you still have it. Follow my lead." The final descent felt endless, both aircraft trembling, fighting gravity and memory. And then, contact. The cargo plane hit first, hard but intact. The passenger jet came seconds later, sliding down the runway and coming to a stop. Battered, smoking, but alive. The radio erupted with voices. Cheers, disbelief, tears. Sophia just sat there, hands still on the yoke, breath shaking. Captain Hale turned to her, eyes wet. "You just saved 200 lives." She looked out the window at the burning wreck, then whispered, "I owed them that." But as rescue crews rushed in, Command's voice returned through the radio, colder now. "Falcon One, remain grounded. We're sending recovery for you immediately." She closed her eyes. She knew what that meant. The life she'd escaped had just caught up, and that was how her peace ended, in the very skies where she'd found it. Hours later, the storm had passed. The cargo plane sat broken on the runway, its paint scorched, but it had done its job. Sophia stood by the wreckage, staring at the dawn breaking over the ocean. The light felt different, like the sky itself was trying to tell her something. A shadow appeared beside her, Captain Hale. "They said Command wants to debrief you personally." She nodded. "Yeah, they usually do when ghosts return." He studied her quietly. "You could have told us who you were." Sophia smiled faintly. "Would you have believed me?" He shook his head. "No, but I wish I had known the kind of person I was flying with." She looked toward the horizon. "You did. I just wasn't ready for anyone else to know." The F-22 pilots approached, one of them still limping from the ejection. He saluted her, crisp, sharp, full of respect. "Ma'am, we thought you were gone." Sophia returned the salute. "So did I." For a long time, no one spoke. The air smelled of jet fuel and sea salt, and somewhere in the distance, the survivors of Flight 912 were being led to safety. Then Hale asked softly, "So, what happens now?" Sophia took a slow breath. "Now? I go where the sky lets me. Maybe it's time I stop running." He smiled. "You think they'll let you go?" She looked up. "Maybe not. But at least they'll remember I came back for the right reason." The sun broke through the clouds, painting her face in gold. For the first time in years, she felt peace. Not the quiet kind she tried to build, but the honest kind that comes after you stop hiding. She turned to Hale and Mason. "Thank you for trusting me." Hale nodded. "You made it easy." As the rescue teams finished their work, Sophia walked toward the open field at the end of the runway. The wind brushed her face, gentle now, like the sky's apology. She whispered to herself, "Maybe I was never meant to disappear. Maybe I was just meant to come home. And somewhere above, 2 F-22s circled once. A silent salute before vanishing into the clouds. Sophia watched them go, then smiled, small, quiet, and real. The world might never know who saved Flight 912. But that didn't matter. She knew. And that was enough. Every person has a story worth respect. What would you have done differently? Share your thoughts below.